Friends, pray with me. God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations that are in each of our hearts be pleasing in your sight. Amen. I found this sermon more challenging to write than I thought I would. I thought, why can't I get into the flow of this one? What's happening there? And I thought, in principle, these words are easy for me to say to all of you or anyone else out there, harder to sort of receive myself, right? It's easy to say, you all should love your neighbor. And you should forgive 70 times 7. You should even love your enemies. And of course, shouldn't we all look at our bias? Take the log out of our own eye before we go after the speck in other eyes. We see all kinds of people who do that, right? But do I really need to do that? I know I don't have all the answers. I'm not perfect. I'm not always right. I've accumulated a certain amount of biases over my lifetime about things like race or gender or Mercedes drivers or people from Nebraska. I'm from Iowa. It happens. I work hard to keep an open mind and heart. I try to improve my listening skills. I make sure I read some opinion pieces each day that I disagree with. And to be honest, sometimes I'm listening and here's what I'm thinking. They got the log, I just have the speck. Couldn't Jesus have a little more nuance to this passage? Because some people really are so difficult to deal with. But I don't think he gave us much nuance because he knew we would put it in there anyway. So where this all started was I wanted to preach today about this major challenge that we face in the church. We have to deal with really the damage that Christianity has done. We can look at history. We often want to defend the church, but we have to be honest and say we've had bias. We can look at the historical things about the church that have been damaging. Whether it's Salem witch trials or the Crusades or justifying slavery and so on. Unfortunately, the church's collective reputation has become that we are narrow-minded, judgmental, stuck in the past, against human progress, especially for women, people of color, and LGBTQ+ people. And it's not just a historical problem. I think the most damaging thing that's happened in the church in the 21st century, I think it has to be the sexual abuse scandals. You look at the beginning of this century and the Spotlight investigation that showed what was happening with abuse in the Catholic Church, devastating. When I came to Northampton after that, they'd had 4 Catholic churches, they went to 1. People walked, they stopped giving, they stopped participating. Their hearts were broken, they were angry. And we come into the 2020s, and we've all been affected by this. But you know what the fastest declining religious body in the United States is today? You want to guess? It's going to shock you. Southern Baptists. Southern Baptists. They're always the ones that are growing, right? They're always the ones saying to us, mainline Protestants, oh, you're dead, your theology's bad, that's why you're declining. They're declining the fastest now, and it's because of their own sexual abuse scandals that have been covered up. And they've decided the way to deal with it is we're going to double down on we're not going to let women be ordained, and no one can get an abortion under any circumstance. So they're just sort of plummeting. And okay, so here's the log in my eye. that after being told so long that we're the ones in decline, there's a German word for this. Do you know the word Schadenfreude? It means sort of taking delight in someone else's misfortune. It's easy to do that, but here's the truth. It affects us all. When one church or one religious body or one Christian does something that is so wrong, it comes over on all of us, and we can try as much as we want to say, well, we're not that kind of Christian. We're kind and we're open and we're generous of spirit. You should try us. But the truth is that those negative and wrong things speak so loudly, it's hard to get that message across. So what do we do? I think the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche has a statement that really sums up the prevailing point of view. He says, I would more likely believe in the Redeemer if the believers were more redeemed. Now, here's why I think this statement is actually helpful. Because he says, it's actually not the life and teachings of Jesus that give him offense. He's not saying, Jesus was full of it. What a ridiculous way to live. No, he said, I would probably be a part of that if I saw a church and Christians living more like that. And there's a certain amount of good things we can take from that, saying, at least we're trying to follow a philosophy and a way of being that still has a lot of respect in the world. Very few people say, Jesus, what a nut job. It's the church, it's the human beings, the community. So I think the good thing is it gives us a direction to follow. People respect Jesus. It's just really hard to follow his teachings. So as I thought about, how do we respond to this negativity and this the ways that people have genuinely been hurt by the church? What do we do? And really what came to my mind the most was the Sermon on the Mount. These 3 chapters, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, are really just that concise summary of what Jesus meant. And I find that Christian ethicists have always called the church back to its true purpose by reflecting on the Sermon on the Mount. Dietrich Bonhoeffer's great book, The Cost of Discipleship, he wrote it to the German church in the 1930s to call them away from adopting Nazism and the kind of hatred and anger that embodied. It was a reflection on the Sermon on the Mount. When Martin Luther King wrote Strength to Love about the civil rights movement and the possibilities of overcoming hatred and anger with love, it was a reflection on the Sermon on the Mount. Even Gandhi, who was Hindu, said, I love your Christ, not always your Christians, but he took a lot of his philosophy of nonviolence from Sermon on the Mount. So, okay, where am I? Jesus said, judge not, lest ye be judged. Clear out your own eye before you go poking around in someone else's. In other words, deal with your prejudices, your shortfalls before you go out and try to make the world be the way you want it to be. And I think it's this humbler faith that if we genuinely want to communicate with people who are fed up with the church and Christianity, we need this spirit to be the salt and the light. So how do we live this out in practice? Well, I have 3 practices that I think are helpful to me. My starting point is a line from the prayer of St. Francis. Grant that I may not seek to be understood as much as to understand. Let me understand what that person is saying before I jump in there with my opinion and try to tell them what's what. When two people are talking to each other, the time between when one person stops talking and the next person starts talking, on average, this is research-based, is 200 milliseconds. 200. You know how fast that is? Like if you're watching an Olympic swim race, it's like tap, tap. That was too slow. Boom. 200 milliseconds. Now, guess how long it takes to form a word in your brain and get it out your mouth? 600 milliseconds. It's pretty fast, but it's 3 times slower than the time we leave in conversation. So let me just state the obvious. There's no way that we could have formed the word after the person got done talking. We have been thinking about what to say, and we've formed a thought, and we're not listening because we only leave 200 milliseconds between when we pick up on someone else's, what they're saying. So I think it's so important when we're in a very charged conversation, it's a good practice to just stop and say, hang on, I want to see if I understand what you're saying. Let me just say it and make sure that I'm getting you. You don't have to agree with them, and you do get a chance to give your own opinion, but you stop and you say, okay, let me see if I'm hearing you. And I find that at least half the time when you're in a charged conversation, it makes the conversation better. Right, I just saw Rick over there. Whew. Right? Don't say, just calm down, right? Because that never works. You say, you seem angry. Tell me more about that. And you bring it down first. Now just think, if you could improve half of your challenging conversations, how much better your life would be. Second practice. It's the proverbial wisdom that confession is good for the soul. So I try to write in my journal a few times a week. And I always start off and I write down all the good things that happen during the week. You know, you should try it. If you write down 3 good things that happen every day, it improves your mood, it makes you claim what you've done, it makes you see the things that you're grateful for. Write down 3 good things that happen every day. We're grounded in the good. And then I write down the mistakes I made. Sometimes I skip it. But it's always good to just stop and say, today, I shouldn't have said that. I missed an opportunity. I didn't follow through. I was maybe, whatever it is, I write it down. And I find that helpful. What it does is first of all, it gives me a sense of integrity, right? That I'm being honest. Being honest with yourself is very powerful. Gives you some control over your life to say, I see it, I have put it in ink on paper, I can do something about it if I can admit it. Because guilt is debilitating. You carry it around, it's a weight, and it leaves you vulnerable to making the same darn mistake tomorrow. Get it out there. Move forward. And here's the last part, and I keep stepping on my shoestring. Always tie your shoes before you preach. That's very important. But the last piece I want to spend some time on here is, so how do we embrace a kind of non-judgmental, non-defensive posture when we're trying to enter into a conversation? And we're going to try a little exercise here. So when someone says something that you disagree with, the reality is your physical reaction to it goes faster than your brain, right? Your you're angry, you're frustrated, you're hurt, bam! Like it is in your body before you think about it. And so remember sometime this week where somebody said something disagreeable to you. They told you your idea was ridiculous. Or they were just angry with you over something you felt like you didn't do. They put out that political opinion you feel is so offensive. Just take a moment and register one of those things. Everybody got one? Anybody want one of mine? Now, as you're feeling that and you think about that moment, where do you feel it in your body? Can you find it? I see you pointing right there, right? How many of you right here? How many of you up here? Around your head. You know, sometimes when I get mad about certain things, I feel it go right up the back of my neck. And it lodges at the bottom of my brainstem, the reptile brain. Ugh. You say, you got a head of steam, right? You're disagreeing, you're angry. Your head's going to explode. You feel things, some people feel things around their head. My ex-wife, it was the jaw. She could look completely calm, but if I saw her jaw working, look out, right? Oh, we feel things in our hearts. When we're upset, our hearts start to pound. We feel a weight pressing in. Remember when George Floyd was killed? I can't breathe. That's what we feel when we're hurt and vulnerable, like we can't breathe, our heart is pounding. Or I'll tell you where I usually feel things. Any gut feelers? I heard a moan back there. Oh, punched in the guts, a pit in the stomach. Like we locate these things. We have aches and pains around where we carry our emotions. And there's a lot of power in being able to locate it. And it, I would say, this is a little rubric, it's not scientific, but if you disagree with someone, often the tension's somewhere around your head. If you feel hurt in a relationship, it's around your heart. And if you're afraid, it's in the gut, right? That we feel different things in different parts of our body. Now here's the thing, if I tell you, what are you feeling right now? And you're trying to do it in your head, you probably can't do it. Because it's just too darn confusing. What am I feeling? I don't know. I'm feeling all kinds of things, and blah, 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 blah. The body does not lie. The body does not know how to lie. It just responds. So if you can locate the power of something going on, you feel it in your body, you know it's real. You know that you're feeling anxiety or anger or whatever it is. But here's the other thing. The body calms the mind. You try to calm everything down in your head, does that work? No, you can go around and around, but the body leads the mind to calm down and pay attention more and do what the mind is supposed to do, which is think reasonably. And just think about this. When somebody's upset, you say, take a deep breath. Why? Because the breath calms the mind. Wherever you're feeling that pressure, that anxiety, catch and release. There it is. I'm upset. I can let it go. And see, then you're free. You can make a decision. You can decide what you want to do with it. You are the most unfree when you're being governed by that anxiety and you're not even acknowledge it and you're acting out of your unconscious. You're not free. You're free when you can stop and acknowledge and accept what's going on and make a choice about what you want to do with it. Okay, so that's a lot to put out there. It takes a little practice. We're going to do a guided meditation during our joys and concerns, and just work with that for a couple of minutes. Let me give a quick wrap up, and then we'll move on. You want to remove the log from your own eye, work on your prejudices. 3 things. Confession is good for the soul. Understand that other person before you try to be understood. Give them more than 200 milliseconds. Embrace being non-judgmental. Let your body help you find your way through your anxiety and emotional reactions. I think if we can do these 3 things, we can be salt. We can be light. We can heal some of what people feel so brokenhearted and angry about with the church. Amen to that. Amen.